The Bermuda Triangle has captured imaginations with stories of vanished planes' music and ships. But now, a new scientific theory claims to finally have the answer. 700 and below, there was complete darkness. The light from the ROV camera could only reach a few feet ahead, and the people sitting in the control room were staring at the screen without blinking. The team had gone there to search for the wreckage of an old ship, maybe to find gold, silver, or some lost piece of history hidden under the sea. But what appeared changed the entire mission. In front of the camera, huge stone blocks could be seen resting on the ocean floor. Their edges looked straight. The surfaces appeared flat, and they seemed arranged in a way that looked carefully placed by someone. The strangest part was that this wasn't a rumor or a blurry image. It was HD footage supported by sonar data and recorded during a real survey mission working under a government contract. For a few seconds, complete silence filled the control room, as if everyone realized that something below was not normal. The team had gone looking for a ship, but what they saw changed everything. But the real question was not what was found down there. The real question was how it got there. Before we understand that in detail, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you can watch videos like this before anyone else. Now, let's take the story a little further back, because the place where all of this was found creates a completely different image in people's minds the moment they hear its name, the Bermuda Triangle. This region is believed to be a part of the Atlantic Ocean stretching between Florida, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico, covering an area of around 500,000 square miles. For years, all kinds of stories have surrounded this place. Some say ships disappear here, without leaving any trace. Others say airplanes suddenly vanish from radar. And some connect it to a mysterious force that no one has been able to explain even today. That's why whenever people hear the name Bermuda Triangle, thoughts of ghosts, aliens, time portals, and strange events immediately come to mind. But here's one important thing to understand. The story we're talking about right now is not like those old rumors or scary stories made for the internet. This is not about something a sailor claimed to see. This is about a recorded survey mission. A mission that involved a professional team, a government contract, modern equipment, and everything being documented with real data. Their goal was not to search for mysteries. They had gone to explore old Spanish shipwrecks and possible treasure beneath the ocean, which means in the beginning, nobody expected that they would find anything extraordinary. Launched to the 2001 expedition. The year was 2001. In the beginning, nobody had any idea that this mission would later become one of the most talked about stories connected to the Bermuda Triangle. At that time, no one was focused on a lost civilization or a mystery hidden beneath the ocean. The mission had a very simple and clear goal: to find the wreckage of old Spanish ships. Ships that were believed to have sunk centuries ago, carrying gold, silver, and valuable treasures down into the sea. The mission was being led by Paulina Zalitsky and her company, Advanced Digital Communications. This was not some amateur exploration team. These people had years of experience in underwater surveys, mapping, and deep-sea exploration. The expedition was also backed by an official contract from the Cuban government, which means this was not a documentary shoot or some internet experiment. Everything was being done in a professional way. They had a research vessel, advanced survey systems, and most importantly, high-level psych and sonar technology to scan the ocean floor. The plan was very simple. Go to the selected area, record data from the seabed, and check whether there were any signs of old shipwrecks. The first several days were completely normal. The screen showed exactly what missions like this usually show: uneven seafloor, mud, rocks, and sometimes small natural patterns. For the team, this was routine work, spending hours watching monitors, saving data, and moving forward. Nobody was in a hurry, because patience is the biggest tool in missions like these. Days passed. A few scans showed slightly interesting readings in some areas, but nothing that could change the entire mission. The atmosphere on the ship stayed calm. People kept checking their systems, writing reports, and hoping that maybe the next area would reveal an old shipwreck. Then one day, everything changed. Suddenly, something appeared on the sonar screen that nobody had expected. At first, it seemed like it might just be a normal rock formation. But after a few seconds, the team realized the pattern looked strange. There were no random scattered marks. There were lines. The spacing looked almost equal. The shapes did not appear natural. The operator looked at the screen again. The direction of the ship was adjusted slightly. Another scan was run, but the same thing appeared again, and that was the moment the atmosphere changed. A mission that just minutes earlier had been searching for gold and silver had now shifted all of its attention toward that unknown shape appearing on the ocean floor. Then one scan stopped everything. But before understanding what the team saw next, it's important to understand how they were seeing it in the first place. They were not using a normal camera taking pictures underwater. At that depth, a camera alone doesn't do much. What they were using was side-scan sonar. To understand it in simple words, side-scan sonar is a way to see what is under the ocean. It sends sound waves through the water and then reads the waves that bounce back to create an image-like view of the seafloor. Where the surface is soft like mud or loose sediment, the sound gets absorbed more, and that area appears darker on the screen. On the other hand, where the surface is hard like rock, the sound reflects more strongly and that area appears brighter. Normal geological formations under the ocean usually look very irregular. Some places are higher, some lower, some shapes are broken, and some patterns are rounded. People who have worked with this data for years can usually tell within minutes what looks natural and what seems unusual. And that's exactly why what appeared on the screen that day caught everyone's attention. At first, a few bright areas appeared on the display. Nobody paid much attention in the beginning, but then someone noticed that the shapes didn't look normal. There were lines, and those lines looked almost parallel to each other. Even the spacing seemed strangely equal. Then after looking more carefully, they noticed some corners that looked almost like right angles. At that point, the professional team became fully active. The sonar technician immediately assumed it might be a system error. He adjusted the angle of the ship and ran another scan. The same result appeared. Then he changed the gain settings to remove the effect of weak or overly strong signals. Still the same result. Next, he changed the frequency to get a different depth response. Nothing changed. Until now, the team still believed the sonar screen might be showing some kind of mistake. But then they noticed something that changed the entire atmosphere. Shadows. At first glance, it might not sound important, but for people who spent years reading seafloor data, shadows are one of the strongest clues. Because in sonar, shadows do not appear randomly. When sound waves hit an object and cannot reach the area behind it, a dark section appears on the screen. That means something is standing above the surrounding surface. If the ground is completely flat, shadows do not form. If something is buried under the sediment, shadows do not form. And if it is only a thin rock layer, you usually don't see that effect either. The team looked back at the screen. Now they started realizing that those shapes were not just bright marks. Clear shadows were forming behind them. That meant something elevated existed down there, something that had sharp edges and stood above the seafloor. At that moment, the expressions in control room began to change. The sonar technician immediately thought maybe it was just an illusion caused by the angle. The ship's direction was adjusted again. Another scan was done over the same location. The same thing appeared again. Now the situation started to feel more serious. The team decided they would not reach any conclusion from a single observation. They made a second pass over the area, then a third, then a fourth, then a fifth, every time from a different direction at a different speed and with changed scan settings. But all 5 scans gave the same result. Everywhere they scanned, the same pattern appeared, the same straight shapes, the same spacing, the same shadows. At this point, it became difficult to blame the machine, because if the system had been faulty, the data would have changed each time. But here the same thing kept appearing again and again. After that, the team opened their databases. First, they compared it with old shipwreck patterns. No match. Then they checked coral structures. Nothing looked similar. Then they compared it with known marine geological formations. Still no answer. Slowly, one thing started becoming clear. Whatever was appearing below had never been recorded in that area before. It did not look like any known shipwreck, any coral pattern, or any normal geological formation. ROV mission descending into the darkness. Now the decision had been made. The sonar kept giving the same readings again and again, and the team understood that they could no longer move forward by looking only at data. If something was really down there, they had to see it with their own eyes. So they took the next step, sending an ROV down to a depth of 700 m. Everyone on the ship knew at that moment that this mission was no longer a normal survey. Going 700 m below the surface sounds simple when you hear it, but the ocean is a different world. At that depth, pressure becomes more than 70 atmospheres. No human can go there directly, and if a machine fails down below, there's often no way to recover it. If the cable breaks, the camera shuts down, or a seal fails, the ROV stays on the ocean floor forever. There is no second chance down there. That's why the team prepared very carefully. First, the main cable of the ROV was fully checked. Every connection was inspected. Then, the power system was tested. The control system was checked, and every emergency setting was run again. Nobody was ready to take risks because by now they had started feeling that something unusual might be waiting below. After that, it was time for the floodlights. At 700 m deep, sunlight does not reach. Natural light had not touched that place for thousands, maybe millions of years. The ROV's lights were going to become their eyes. So, every light was tested again and again. Clear as throat, then the cameras were calibrated. Angles were adjusted. The live feed was checked. The recording system was reviewed one more time. When everything was ready, the command came from the control room. Lower the ROV. Slowly, the cable started unrolling. For the first few meters, everything looked normal. There was still a little light in the water. Small fish passed in front of the camera. The screen looked calm and peaceful. But as the ROV moved deeper, the light began to disappear. The world above slowly faded away. After some time, the water became completely dark. Now only the ROV's floodlights could be seen on the screen. Their white beams were cutting through the darkness and moving forward. At a depth of 300 m, the control room had become completely silent. Nobody was speaking. Everyone was just staring at the screen. The machine kept ascending. Now there was nothing outside except darkness. Tiny particles floated in front of the camera. It felt like slowly entering an empty world. The cable went deeper, and then for the first time something started appearing at the edge of the floodlights. At first, it seemed like it was just the ocean floor, but within the next few seconds, they realized this did not look like a normal seabed. It looked like something that should not have been there. First visual confirmation, 680 m, 690 m, and finally, the ROV reached close to the ocean floor. Everyone sitting in the control room was watching the screen continuously. Until now, everyone expected to see a normal underwater surface. Mud, scattered rocks, and uneven ground. But the moment the floodlights reached farther ahead, what appeared on the screen made the entire room fall completely silent for a few seconds. First, a large flat surface appeared, then another one beside it, then a third. At first, it seemed like these were just normal rocks. But within a few seconds, everyone started feeling that something was different. These surfaces did not look broken and irregular like normal underwater rock formations. The ROV moved a little farther. Now the edges became clearer. Straight edges, sharp corners, corners that almost looked cut. Under the sea, things usually appear rounded, worn down, and uneven. But here, the shapes looked strangely organized. The camera moved closer. Now it became clear that these were not separate stones. There appeared to be huge rectangular block-like structures. Some looked arranged in a line. Some had almost equal spacing between them. And the farther the camera moved, the stronger the feeling became that this was not a random ocean floor. Then the team started studying the surfaces carefully, and another strange detail appeared. The surfaces of the blocks looked surprisingly smooth. There were very few signs of normal ocean erosion. There wasn't heavy mud covering them, no thick layer of sediment, and it didn't look like these structures had been completely buried for a long time. The ROV moved slightly lower, and now the scale started becoming clear. These were not small rocks. Some of the blocks looked so massive that the ROV itself appeared tiny in comparison. Their edges were visible, and the surfaces could be clearly separated from each other. It looked as if someone had placed huge pieces below in some kind of arrangement. The people sitting in the control room were not the same anymore.